Hi there, my name is Monarch, and this is Peak FPS. This video is a lot shorter than the other ones I've been doing of late because I don't like longer videos. Attention span, TikTok, yada yada, YouTube shorts. This joke is dead, probably. So I'm just going to dedicate small sections of the video to how each FPS I've mentioned masters movement and why they're, and why movement is the peak of FPS. So we're going to start with Titanfall 2. Kind of unfair, honestly, to start with Titanfall, considering the fact that other than the whole movement thing, they've got Titans going for them, and Titans are awesome. There is nothing that beats the feeling of just absolutely obliterating everything in your path in a giant fucking robot. It's the greatest part of Titanfall. It's the greatest part of any MP game with mechs. It's awesome. I love Titanfall. Also, I just lied because I don't think that mechs are the greatest part of Titanfall 2. The mechs are the greatest part of the original Titanfall because they were much stronger and much more fun in Titanfall 1. But in Titanfall 2, they're so much easier to take down. They have weak points. The pilots can just absolutely obliterate most Titans. I have a lot of issues with Titans, but those are really the only cons I actually have with Titanfall 2. Everything else is great. I mean, the campaign is super fun. There's not a lot to say about the campaign other than that it's great and that you should play it. MP for Titanfall is unmatched, I think, in arcade shooters because, for a lot of reasons. Obviously, it's hard to pinpoint one exact reason. Obviously, the movement is the best thing about it, I would argue, because the movement is what makes arcade MPs actually, skillful. In Call of Duty, I've always lamented about how it's a lot more about just whoever has the faster reaction time, because at least in game modes like Team Deathmatch and such, you can never know exactly where all of your enemies are, so it's not about positioning or tactical play. It's literally just who sees who first and who can hit headshots first, and blah, 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 and it's a lot of mechanical skill, and I'm not diminishing mechanical skill, because I love that too. I just don't think it's interesting in an MP setting, because there's not much else to it other than that, and I don't understand how so many Call of Duty games are so popular because of that, barring Black Ops 3, of course. So the movement, I think, is Titanfall's greatest asset because of this. It makes the MP interesting. It makes a lot of the game really interesting. Excuse me, sorry, I just had to cough my lungs out for a moment. So that was why my voice sounded weird. Outside of movement in Titanfall, because there's not the most to say about movement other than it's good. You can double jump, you can wall run. It's fun to maneuver around enemies. That's why the movement in Titanfall is so good. Got it? Great. The next thing I want to talk about is the guns in Titanfall. A lot of them are overpowered. The car, Spitfire, the fucking, the Cold War. A lot of them are a whole load of bullshit to play against. It's so much. There's so many broken shit in Titanfall. There's so much that people will complain about, which is kind of why it's balanced. Because everyone dies in a couple seconds anyways, it doesn't really matter that these guns are so overpowered, because even if you're using whatever the worst gun in the game is, what is that? I don't know. I think the guns are all pretty well balanced, again, because of how short the TTK is. Even if you're using whatever the worst gun in the game may be, you can still very easily do well with it as long as you're good. And I think games and weapons that promote actually being skilled at the game is always good. I think being skilled at the game and promoting being skilled at the game isn't a bad thing. It would be wild if it was a bad thing. So, yeah. Oh, one last thing to talk about on guns is that there's like 100% hipfire accuracy. You do not need to aim down the sights in Titanfall, especially with my favorite weapon personally, which is the alternator, because it's easy to control recoil, and 100% hipfire accuracy makes it kind of a laser. It's kind of nuts. So finally, the game modes is what I wanted to talk about with ULTRAKILL. I'm getting there. Don't worry. Titanfall. The game modes, they're fine. They're kind of a step down from the original Titanfall. A lot of Titanfall 2 I could just compare to the original, which is fine. Both games are great. I love both games. I prefer Titanfall 1, but, you know, I born to Titanfall 1, forced to Titanfall 2, unfortunately. But it's okay, because Titanfall 2 is still amazing, and it's just preference. So, game modes, you got your normal ones, like Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, all that fun. My favorites are Live Fire, Pilots, V-Pilots, and... what's it called? Nope, can't remember, which makes it probably not really my favorite. Oh, Last Pilot Standing, or Last Titan Standing. Both of those are pretty great, I gotta say. Most of these are pretty obvious in what they are. Like, their names are self-explanatory. Bounty Hunt is a game where you gotta get kills, and then you get cash for those kills, and then you gotta stay alive and deposit them in banks, and it's kind of convoluted, but it's still fun. And my main point about Titanfall 2's game modes is that they're pretty fun. That's it. That's actually all I'm gonna say about it, because there's not really much point like in reviewing each individual game mode, which means it is now time for me to talk about my favorite game ever, ULTRAKILL. Yay, woo, confetti. ULTRAKILL is great. ULTRAKILL is amazing. Its weapons, I'm going to start with, they're all pretty well balanced. They all feel incredibly strong. However, you as the player just in general feels really strong and unstoppable, which I love. That is my favorite part about Doom, which is also a pretty good FPS, I would say. It's funny that ULTRAKILL is called Doom on a budget, because I prefer ULTRAKILL, because I think it's a better game because of the movement, because the weapons are better. Actually, Doom Eternal is a really unbalanced game, and I could talk about that, but I won't, because I'm not like the opposite of Under the Mayo. That guy's a loser. Right, ULTRAKILL, weapons. Revolver, fucking iconic. You got the piercer, you got the alternate, you got the slab is what I mean. You got the marksman, you got the red revolver, which is kind of dog shit. I mean, it's good, but it's also really useless is my point. But other than that, it's still fun. Like, every weapon is incredibly fun to use in ULTRAKILL, which I think is a really impressive achievement, considering, most FPS games that is not the case. Like, you as the player in most of the time are going to shy away from some specific weapons because they're just not as fun to you. But in ULTRAKILL, if you're an enjoyer of ULTRAKILL, then it's not going to be the case, because all of the weapons will feel strong and fun to use. Like, the reason that you might not want to use, like, a shotgun, say, in a regular MP game is you don't like closing that distance between you and the enemy player to use a shotgun on them, right? So instead you opt for perhaps just a regular assault rifle, so that you can keep them at mid-range and use your mechanical skill of hitting headshots instead to, fend off your enemies. But in ULTRAKILL, your insane speed allows you to stay at whatever range you want at all times, and the weapons all perfectly complement at what part of the game that you want to be playing. Like, for example, if you're low on health, then you're probably going to be wanting to play a bit more aggressively so that you can heal, right? But if you're higher on health and you're fighting, say, Minos Prime, for example, or any boss, you might want to stay farther away from them because a lot of them can unleash like some wacky ass attacks that can catch you off guard if you're not prepared. So therefore you would want to stay farther away from them, and you can do that too with things like the slab revolver, the rocket launcher, or the rail cannon, for example. Many people would also be partial to, say, the marksman coin, but there is no one playstyle to me in ULTRAKILL because you have to continuously switch between how you're playing in the game, depending on what weapons you have, especially their freshness if you're looking for that sweet, sweet P rank. And you have to manage your health state as well. You know, if you're low on health, and you have to, you like, the game forces you to get up closer to the enemies if you're low on health, because that is the only way you can heal, other than parrying, which generally I would like to be closer to the enemies for that anyways, because I just do. I don't know. I mean, you don't want to be too close, otherwise you become the explosion. But anyways, their weapons are good in ULTRAKILL. They're well balanced. I like it. The movement in ULTRAKILL also amazing. Obviously, that's what connects the three games I'm talking about in this video. But other than just saying movement good, I'm not really qualified to talk about movement, other than I think it's more skillful than regular MPs, except ULTRAKILL isn't MP, so maybe how does the movement play into the single player aspect, which is it's fun to use. You know, there's some techs that you can learn that are like, whoa, wait a minute, I can absolutely obliterate this game. And the skill ceiling on ULTRAKILL is kind of weird because it's kind of similar to the For Honor skill chart, which is the amount of time that you spend in both games. It's like you get your ass beat for a long time, and then you like learn a couple things about the game. And ULTRAKILL's instance, you learn how to tech. You learn different techs in the game, like P boosting, or slam storage, or instant rocket riding, or anything like that, right? And you like just at some point after you've practiced all these techs, they all just kind of come together, and then you just start absolutely beating the fuck out of Gabriel. You know, and the reason why it compares to For Honor is because it's kind of similar. Like, you spend a lot of time getting your ass beat, and then at some point it just clicks, and then you start beating asses. Or at least that was the case. No one really plays For Honor anymore, and I kind of think they need to make a second For Honor, because For Honor is a lot of fun, and I've said For Honor a lot in the past, like, 1 minute. So, For Honor. That's kind of all I have to say about ULTRAKILL, I think. I mean, I could talk about level design, I could talk about secrets, I could talk about bosses. Ooh! Okay, I was going to say I don't want to, but bosses. ULTRAKILL handles the boss fights incredibly well. V2, Gabriel, Leviathan, Pinos Rhyme, and Sisyphus. I'm just going to say Sisyphus. The joke's over. Especially Minos Prime and Sisyphus, I think, are awesome, are incredible. They're great boss fights because of how much they challenge the player. You know, like V2 originally was kind of like a knowledge check. It was like a skill check to be like, all right, do you actually know how to play the game, or are you just fucking around, right? Because up until V2, I'm going to be honest, ULTRAKILL is a pretty easy game. Like, at least for someone who's played, you know, like, who's familiar with FPS games. ULTRAKILL's pretty easy. But then you hit V2 and it's like, oh wait, I actually need to know the mechanics of the game. Mostly, namely, parrying, coins, and, well, iframes from the dashes, maybe a couple techs. I mean, techs aren't, like, technically, they're not technically needed to beat ULTRAKILL, but they make it a hell of a lot easier. I would argue that everyone should learn techs in ULTRAKILL because they're part of what makes the game so fun. And it also makes me a little concerned for when the game fully releases, because if someone was to go through ULTRAKILL and like play it for the first time without the way that the community has learned how to play the game, which is gradually increasing their skills and grinding over time. Like, that is not going to be how the average person consumes ULTRAKILL after its release, which I now find kind of odd. But, I mean, when you look at it that way, it's kind of like, oh shit, Gabriel and V2 are kind of designed to be roadblocks in that way, because Gabriel and V2 are going to be testing the player to learn those techs. Like, yeah, now the community can bully all of the bosses because we're good at the game, but on full release, not everyone is going to be incredible at the game like we are. So it's kind of an odd introspective. I barely even talked about bosses. We're just kind of philosophized, that's a word, on how ULTRAKILL is going to turn out when it's fully released. So I'm just going to quickly say something about the bosses, then move on, because I need to talk about Black Ops 3, and this video is already going to be longer than the ULTRAKILL one, so that's great. So bosses, they're good. They did well. Someone made a much better video on than me about why the bosses in ULTRAKILL are so good. So I'm just gonna say that they're a great skill check. They're a lot of fun, and every death in ULTRAKILL feels fair. You know, it doesn't feel like you screwed up. It doesn't feel like the game is unfair. It feels like you died because you screwed up. Like, oh, I missed that parry, so I died. Or, I should have conserved my stamina better. Or I should have, I don't know, just dodged out of the way. Like, a lot of attacks in this game are pretty well telegraphed, except for Sisyphus and Minos, but they're also bosses, so you should learn boss attack patterns. It's not that hard. Moving on to Black Ops 3. This is the game I actually have the least to say about, because I haven't played it in actual years. Because who has? Like, it's a great game. It outlived most COD games. I mean, no, that's not true. I believe it has the record for the longest running, like, actually played Call of Duty multiplayer. And I think that is in no small part because of its movement system. Its maps were great also because they were designed around the movement system, and it was a lot of fun to utilize the extra, well, not jumps, technically, it's a jetpack if you want to get technical about it. But the movement, the slides, the wall running, all of it made the MP just a lot more interesting to play. It made everything feel so much better. And a lot of people who were dog shit at Call of Duty were really mad about that. But the people who actually enjoyed well-crafted games were like, oh, but this is peak Call of Duty. So peak Call of Duty, yeah. That's thanks to the movement. Outside of the movement, I really don't have much to talk about because it's Call of Duty. The weapons were fine. The weapons are fine. They exist. They're kind of similar to Titanfall and most arcade MPs, is because weapons are so quick to actually finish people off. It doesn't really matter what you're using, so you can kind of use whatever weapon you want. Assuming that you're good with that weapon archetype, of course, because unlike in ULTRAKILL, as I mentioned about the shotgun example I used, like in ULTRAKILL, you can use a shotgun whenever because you're not basing yourself off of the reaction time of the demons that you're killing. You're basing the use of your shotgun on like the situation that you're in, which is different than Titanfall and Call of Duty, because you're locked into specific loadouts, at least for that life. So, in that way, technically, guns are unbalanced in both games, but that's ridiculous and not even true at all, and anyone who were to make that claim would be a fool. So, yeah. So, guns are balanced in COD by the fact that they all kill incredibly quickly. I could not talk about maps. I actually don't remember any of them. aside from like Nuketown, obviously. And this was also my favorite Nuketown of all the Nuketowns that we've seen so far. So that's interesting. The aesthetic of like the cyber warfare in Black Ops 3, also peak Call of Duty, I would say. It made the guns with like the funny textures and skins and bullet sounds and VFX and whatever. Like it actually felt like not out of place for once, as opposed to more modern Call of Duties. Because, I mean, shit, it's cyber warfare. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can pull out a gun that shoots, like, saw blades or whatever, and it's like, alright, whatever. Or you can make a fucking giant laser, or whatever else is in Call of Duty. I believe I talked about a con of Titanfall, so I must talk about a con of Black Ops 3. ULTRAKILL has no cons, that's not true, but I made an entire video on one con of ULTRAKILL, so I believe I'm fair in leaving one out, okay? So a con of Black Ops 3 is the specialists, they suck. Almost all of them are just not unique. There's not a single recognizable specialist, okay? It literally took me twice as long to find something to put in the thumbnail for this video than ULTRAKILL and Titanfall, because ULTRAKILL and Titanfall, I could just slap BT and V1 in there, and it's like everyone knows who I'm talking about. But for this game, it's like no one recognizes the specialists. They're not unique. They're not interesting. The specialist I always used was the guy with the gravity spikes. I think his name was Ruin, and I only remember this because that was the guy I always used, and I only used them because I hated all the other specialists' ults, because they were all, like, weapon types that I had to, like, pull out and fucking, like, get kills with it, you know? And if I died while using it, was like, you're shit out of luck. You can't go back now. And I was like, oh, okay, well, fine. You know, so that's why I just used Ruin, because it was a one tap, just one shot. But I did not use Ruin in the thumbnail. I used Spectre because I don't know. I just see a lot of people who used Spectre a lot because he looked cool, I guess. I don't know. Like, I would just figured he would be the most recognizable of all the Black Ops 3 specialists, which is sad because they're all incredibly uninteresting to me, anyways. I feel like I just had one more thing I wanted to talk about with Black Ops 3 before I end the video. I mean, the campaign sucked, but it's Call of Duty, so that's to be, expected. Well, I guess not, so that's everything. Goodbye.